When the iPhone 16e was first announced, almost everybody was quick to point out all of the missing features and that it was more expensive than the rumored price. But now, after spending a few months actually using the iPhone 16e, I think most people have been looking at this phone completely wrong. And now, I think it's actually one of the best iPhones you can buy, but not for the reasons you might expect. Okay, so first off, can we just admire the sleek, clean design of the 16e? I mean, this has to be one of the best looking iPhones in years because it's so simple and just so minimal. It has those flat edges, the matte glass back, that beautiful single 48 megapixel camera lens, and of course the 6.1 inch OLED display. And although it does have the same display as the regular 16, it is a little bit lighter weight in the hands while still maintaining that IP68 dust and water resistance. And the reason I mention that is because I have been using the 16e without a case the entire time I've been using it as a secondary device, and of course for a month as my primary device. And it's actually held up really well as I look around the phone. Like, there are some little minor scuffs on the sides from when I dropped it. I did drop it 2 times, and both of those times it survived unscathed. Like, it did not have any type of scratches or anything like that. I did have to replace the screen protector, so I did use a screen protector on it this entire time, but no case. Anyways, as we're looking around this device, the only button that's missing compared to the regular 16 is the camera control button. And thank goodness that's the one that's missing and not the action button, because I use the action button multiple times a day, every single day, at night for a flashlight, during the day to do voice memos, or, quickly put a reminder in my phone. I just use it for so many different scenarios. And of course, that is something I cannot live without. So I'm glad that the 16e has that. However, we have to talk about the elephant in the room here. And there is a non-visual change on the iPhone 16e that caused perhaps the most controversy of all. And that is the fact that we do not have MagSafe support on the iPhone 16e. So if you use MagSafe accessories, or if you charge wirelessly using MagSafe, you cannot do that on the iPhone 16e. Now, it does support wireless charging, Qi wireless charging at 7.5 watts, so it will be kind of slow unless you are charging overnight, which is actually what I do. So it's not a huge loss for me, honestly, because I don't use the accessories either. But still, if you did use MagSafe, if you were on an iPhone 12 or newer coming to the iPhone 16e, that's going to be a downgrade. But on the flip side, there's going to be a lot of people upgrading from an iPhone 11 or earlier to the iPhone 16e, and they would have never had MagSafe support in the first place, so they wouldn't really be missing anything. And before we talk about what I think everybody got wrong with the iPhone 16e, we need to expand a little bit more on this display because, well, it's a 60 hertz display in 2025. Nobody is thrilled about that. However, once again, I would argue, just like with the MagSafe, that the majority of people who are going to be upgrading to the iPhone 16e are probably going to be coming from a 60 hertz display. So again, it's not really going to be a downgrade for the majority of people who are upgrading to this phone. And probably a lot of those people also have no idea what a hertz is or what a refresh rate is. So yes, me as a tech nerd, obviously I wish I had a 120 hertz refresh rate, but I think the majority of people, probably almost all people upgrading to this phone, will not care whatsoever about it having 60 hertz. They will not see any difference in that. However, I don't think that the refresh rate is the big issue with this phone, because I think the big issue with this phone, this display specifically, it's actually 2 things. Number 1 is the lack of brightness, and number 2 is the fact that we do not have the dynamic island. So here's the thing, I live in Florida, right? And when I'm in the car or when I just step outside at any point in time, the sun is usually beating down. It's extremely bright, so I need my phone to keep up and be extra bright as well. Now, this is an OLED display, so thankfully it does get bright enough, like inside when I max it out. But unfortunately, it does not get bright enough when I go outside. Like, this thing peaks at 800 nits of brightness, and it goes up to 1200 nits when watching HDR, but that's less than half as bright as the base model iPhone 16 when outdoors, because that gets up to 2000 nits. So 2000 nits versus 800 nits. That's a big noticeable difference, and it honestly drives me crazy on the iPhone 16e. I think that is perhaps the biggest con of the iPhone 16e. Now, that might be exclusive to me because I am in Florida and I am in a bright environment. Maybe if you're up north, that won't be a big concern, but that is something I wanted to mention. And then the other con, which I think is more universal, and I think pretty much everybody can agree on this, is the missing dynamic island. So we still have a notch on the iPhone 16e. We don't have the pill-shaped cutouts for the dynamic island, which I actually just made a video on why I'm obsessed with the dynamic island. So this was first introduced with the iPhone 14 Pro, so it's been a while, but this feature is awesome. Like you do get live activities at least on the iPhone 16e on the lock screen, so you will see your live activities for your Uber and things like that, but you will not see the dynamic island up there and at the top for quick notifications and like charging animations and things like that. And by the way, the whole reason I made that dynamic island video is because I had just come back from using the iPhone 16e, and then I realized how much I love that dynamic island. So yes, it was greatly missed on the iPhone 16e. But something I do not miss is getting spam phone calls and spam text messages, and today's sponsor Incogni can help you with that, and then some. Data brokers and people search sites are constantly collecting and selling your personal information and posting it online for anybody to find with a simple Google search. This includes information like your address, your phone number, your login credentials, and more. And I used to get tons of random spam text messages and emails until I got my information removed from all of those people search websites using Incogni. Now, thankfully, I never had anybody show up at my house or steal my identity or anything like that, but I'm sure that's happened to some people out there since this data is so easily accessible. So Incogni's automated system works around the clock, reaching out to data brokers on your behalf to request the removal of your personal data. It's super simple to use as well. You just create an account, tell Incogni what data you want removed, and just sit back and let their system do its thing. And I tell you what, if you do a Google search for your phone number or your email and you see your name pop up with it, you need Incogni. And thankfully for you, you can get 60% off of an annual plan by using my special link down in the description below, or just use code Butch at checkout. Okay, so yes, the display is lacking on the iPhone 16e. So when you take a look at the back of the phone and you see a single camera lens, you would think that the camera is also lacking on the iPhone 16e, right? I mean, it looks good, but it's only one camera after all. And well, I would say that it's not necessarily lacking, but it kind of just depends on what you compare this camera to. Because if you're going from an iPhone 11 or 12 or something older, this single 48 megapixel camera lens is probably going to take better photos and videos than your dual camera lens phone from back then. But if you compare it to an iPhone 15 or an iPhone 16, it's not going to be as good. And it's definitely not going to be as good as any of the previous Pro phones. But you know, here's the thing, the 16e is not trying to compete with those phones. It's meant to be an upgrade again from the camera that you're upgrading from, like an iPhone 11, like an iPhone 10R, like an iPhone 12 even. Like this is probably going to be an upgrade from any of those phones, which is what the majority of people are going to be upgrading from. So with that in mind, this camera is awesome. Like it does everything I need it to do, and I really have no complaints with it. So, you know, it's a 2-in-1 camera system, so it does have the 1x and 2x optical zoom options, and it does also have these software-based features like Deep Fusion, Smart HDR5, night mode, and of course it can shoot video in 4K 60. This is just one of those phones that's going to get the job done, and it's going to get it done well. It's not going to take the best photos or videos in the world. If you want that, to get the iPhone 16 Pro or 16 Pro Max, you should not even be watching this video. 16e is not going to do that for you, but it is going to get the job done for posting on social media, sending photos or videos to friends. It's going to do that just fine. And honestly, as you can see from the photos, the 16e does surprisingly well for a variety of different shots and different lighting conditions, like even in lower light right here. So, you know, for the price point and the intended market, I think this camera is no problem at all. I don't see any issue with the 16e camera. However, I have to mention this, I do really miss the ultra wide lens on the iPhone 16e. As somebody who's had a 0.5x, you know, an ultra wide lens for so long, I use that all the time, especially when recording videos. I really missed having that 0.5x when I switched to the 16e. And of course, no macro shots either, because we don't have that ultra wide lens. So that was a bit disappointing, but if you're not used to it, it may not be a big deal to you. And the only thing I really missed when shooting video on the iPhone 16e was sensor shift OIS, because the 16e only has regular OIS. And there's actually a pretty noticeable difference when you use a phone with sensor shift OIS. So it doesn't shake as much. You know, with this phone, when you're walking with it, it doesn't stabilize as well as some of the other phones out there, which can be a kind of annoying. But again, that's super nitpicky for, you know, the price point you're paying for this phone and the demographic it's aimed at. So yeah, the camera is fine, but something I would say that's more than just fine is the performance, because man, The 16E is going to be so much faster and efficient than any of those older phones that you're upgrading from, like the 11, the 12, even the 13. Honestly, this thing is faster than that. And it's not even just about speed, like, oh, running a game faster or going in and out of apps faster. Just, day to day using the phone, you will notice a difference in speed with the 16E and pretty much everything that you do. Now, also, it does have the same A18 chip as the base iPhone 16. It's just missing a GPU core. I honestly don't notice that, by the way, since I don't game very much. So it's going to perform very similar to the base 16, which is a real testament to the performance of this phone. And it does also have 8 gigs of RAM. So this phone will breeze through pretty much anything that you throw at it. And of course, since we have 8 gigs of RAM, that means that we do have Apple Intelligence support on the iPhone 16e. And regardless of your opinion on Apple Intelligence right now, this is undoubtedly going to be one of the big features that Apple continues to push year after year. So it's great that the iPhone 16e is not going to miss out on a ton of new software features that are here now and also coming in the future. You're not going to be left out because the 16e has pretty much every Apple Intelligence feature that the 16 and 16 Pro has. So that is a huge benefit to the 16e, and that means honestly your phone is going to last a long time as well, because you're going to continue getting support for all these features in the future. And you have the 8 gigs of RAM, same chipset as the iPhone 16, of course with the missing GPU, but all those things tells me that this phone is going to last quite some time. And that is exactly what you want to hear when you're trying to be, not spending $1,000 on a phone. And this is exactly why I recommend the 16e over like the iPhone 15 or 15 Plus when people ask me what to buy, because you don't get Apple Intelligence support on those devices. You don't get 8 gigs of RAM. You don't get the updated chipset. There's a lot of things that make me choose the 16e over the 15 or the 15 Plus. Now let's talk about what surprised me most with this phone, because that is going to be battery life. So I use this phone with a SIM card in it for about a month alongside my 16 Pro, and it consistently matched the battery life of my 16 Pro. They pretty much were like neck and neck every single day that I used them. Now, obviously it would die quicker some days and it would last longer on other days. It kind of just depended on how I was using the device, but I would guess I was just more surprised that there wasn't a huge discrepancy between the two. Like I really thought that the 16 Pro would last longer, like a lot longer than the 16e, but that just was never the case. I think most people can get through the entire day with the battery life on the 16e, maybe charging one time throughout the day, but I averaged about 6 to 7 hours of screen on time a day, and it lasted me until nighttime when I was getting ready for bed, when I would plug it in to charge. Now also I should mention that the iPhone 16e is currently the only iPhone that has Apple's new in-house modem inside called the C1 modem. So this is a less advanced modem compared to the Qualcomm inside of my 16 Pro here. It's missing millimeter wave 5G, which is the faster 5G, but surprisingly, I've not noticed any difference whatsoever when taking calls or, searching on Safari when I'm out there on cell signal. And actually, I've noticed that in certain spots where my 16 Pro drops calls or cuts in and out of calls, the 16e did not. It maintained that good signal and it did not drop the call, which I don't know how that's possible on the same network and everything, but that's what happened. So I think a lot of people, myself included, were expecting a downgrade with the C1 modem in terms of performance and, call quality and things like that, but it's actually been the opposite. So that's been my experience. I don't live in a major city, so that might be different for you when you do have 5G millimeter wave. The other Qualcomm modems might be much better than the C1 modem, but for me, I've been very impressed with it. So yeah, the iPhone 16e reminds me a lot of the iPhone XR. It's a more affordable, modern iPhone with Apple Intelligence support, and it nails the basics. I think it's much more like the XR than it is the iPhone SE. And that is exactly why I think the iPhone 16e is honestly one of the best phones you can buy right now if you classify yourself as an average consumer who just wants to scroll social media, take photos, get all-day battery life, and still not miss out on all of the upcoming Apple Intelligence features that you're going to be getting over the next several years. You really cannot get that anywhere else for $600, and honestly, probably a lot less for the majority of people who are doing trade-ins, who are getting it on education, who are getting it through their work. Many instances where you can get this phone for less than $600, and that's hard to beat. But all in all, I think a lot of people got this phone wrong when it was first announced, and they still perceive it wrong right now. It's literally the iPhone XR situation all over again. Those who live and breathe tech, those are who are really into tech, they're going to notice all the features that are missing. Every single little feature that's missing, they're going to nitpick and say, that's missing on the 16E, so it's not a good phone. Whereas the people who this phone's intended for, the average consumers, are going to notice all the features that it does have at a discounted price than what they're used to paying and be like, that's an amazing deal. I need this iPhone 16E. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have an iPhone 16E, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. How have you been liking it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Let me know all your thoughts down there. And if you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.